Nofliwan yevin, 5 ocean mahis navrin inti aspi in reminkimi, emfuutna osh impi achumfat in reminkimi gen mi susu. Hello everyone, this is the second lesson in the Coptic language. Today we will learn how to read the Coptic alphabet in 10 minutes. In the last video, we went over a brief history of the Coptic language, as well as the first 4 letters in the Coptic alphabet. A short recap of the letters that we took were Alpha, Beta, Gamma, Delta, E. The first letter we have today is not actually a letter, it's a number. It's number 6, Su'u. It's included in the alphabet, but like I said, it's not a letter. The first letters we have are the ones that are grouped the same, so like Zeta, Eta, Theta. The first one, Zeta, is like in English Z, like in zebra. There are only 2 Coptic words for it, like in Anzib, which means school, and Zenzen, which is lizard. The rest are going to be Greek words in the Coptic language. We have Eta, which is a long E, and that's because in Coptic it's basically 2 iotas joined together to form the long E. And in hieroglyphics, the iota was written as a reed leaf, and so 2 of them joined together would form the eta sound. A word for this is the word neeb, which means master. Neeb. The third one is theta. This is like an English th in the word think. Word for this in Coptic is Thor, which means universe, but it is also pronounced as a T if it is preceded by a sema or a shai, which is an sh sound. So like the word istoi, which means aroma. Then we have the letter iota, which is, like I said, the reed leaf in hieroglyphic. It's like in English I. A word for this would be if, which means nail. So it's going to be pronounced as an I sound, so a short I, not exactly like in English. For example, you wouldn't pronounce it as an sound, no. You would pronounce it as a clear E, short E. Now we have the second group of letters. These are going to be like in the same order as in the English alphabet. So kappa, lavla, me, ni. Just like in English, K, L, M, N. First one, kappa, is K sound, like I said. Word for that is keli, which is ni. The second one is lavla. Again, it does look like the delta that we had before, but just remember there's no line at the bottom. And the word for that is lavo, which is lion. And some of the Coptic manuscripts that were found would also like draw a little line on top of that word as well. Then we have me, which is English M. In hieroglyphics it was drawn as an L because the word for it in Coptic is mulag, which starts with a me. We have ni, which is like in English N. It's pronounced the same N as well. In hieroglyphics it was drawn as water waves, and just think of it as you chopped a bit of it and you would form the N shape in Coptic. We have before that, we have the letter Ixi, which is like in English X. Word for that in Coptic is exur, which is a Coptic word for ring. It's basically a kappa and a sema joined together. So some words you would find it written as a kappa and a sema. Some you'll find them written as an Ixi, but most of the time it's going to be written as an Ixi because we have a letter for that one. Now continuing again, same format like in the English alphabet, O and P. In Coptic, the O sound is going to be pronounced as a short O, and in Coptic you would usually say as an O kuji, which is small o, and it's going to be similar like to the British pronunciation of the word not, or like in English the word lock, just an O sound. And in Coptic, a word for that would be onch, which means living or alive. And in hieroglyphics, as you can see, it was a spiral, and just take a bit from there and form the O shape. Now we have the P sound. The P in Coptic looks like pi symbol in mathematics. If you're familiar with that, I'm pretty sure you are. It's not going to look like the English P because that's a different letter in Coptic, and you'll see that in a bit now. A word for that in Coptic is paopi, which is a Coptic month. In hieroglyphics, it was drawn as a box, and so just remove the bottom one and you can see how it's formed. Starting with the first one, Ro, which is like an English R, and as you can see, it looks like the English P, but it's not, it's the R sound. Just be careful, don't get confused between the P and the Ro sound in Coptic and in English. In hieroglyphics, it was drawn as a mouth shape because the word for that in Coptic is raw, so again starts with R. And just think of it if you add 3 lines to form the chin, 2 on the side and 1 in the middle, and then you look at it from the side, you can only see 1 line. It would form the P shape in English, or like the Coptic raw shape now. The second letter is Sima, which is like an English C sound. Coptic word for that is Save, which means wise. It's going to be pronounced only a Z in the word cosmos, because that's of Greek origin. And in hieroglyphics, it looks like a shepherd hook, and just twist the other side and you'll have the Sema shape. Now we have Tav, which is like an English T, but only in the words tank, talk, not like English words where you have T, because in Coptic we have a separate letter for that, and you'll see it in a minute. So just remember it's going to be pronounced with a T sound. A Coptic word for that is tot, which means chair. Now we have epsilon, which has 3 pronunciations. The first one is going to be a long O, like in the word room, broom, if it has an O before it, like in the Coptic word uro, which means king. The second pronunciation is going to be a V, if it's preceded by an alpha or an E, so like in the word David. And the third pronunciation is going to be a short I, like in the English word did, after a consonant, or at the beginning of a word, like in the Coptic word, which is actually of Greek origin, but there's no Coptic word for that, so we just used the Greek word martyros. V is going to be like an English PH. To not get confused between the shape of it and Coptic, remember it looks like a stick and you have a snake at the top that just wants to wrap around the stick. A word for that in Coptic would be the word fel, which means fava beans. The other letter K is going to be pronounced as a K sound in all Coptic words, like in the Coptic word Kimi, which means Egypt. It's going to be pronounced in SH sound in Greek words that are followed by an epsilon, iota, eta, or an E. So like the word sheri, which means hail. And in other Greek words, it's going to be pronounced as a KH sound, so like in Arabic kha, so like the Greek word Christos, which means Christ. Now we have ipsi, which is a PS sound. It's formed from having a P and a sema together and just join them. In hieroglyphics you would have that as a shepherd's hook with the P, or like the box shape, and just 2 lines at them, and then you could see how it's kind of forms the same shape in Coptic. A word for that in Coptic is psit, which is 9. The rest of the words you would find are Greek origin, like psaria, psalmos, etc. But the Coptic word for that would be psit, which is 9. Now we have the long O, and this is the final letter which are taken from the Greek alphabet. The long O is going to be similar to like the English word door, and the Coptic word for that is onch, which means life. Compared that to the letter we had before, which is the short O, and the similar word on. Listen to the pronunciations of those 2 words carefully so you can get an idea of what's the difference between that one and that one. So the o kuji, or the short O, onch, o nishti, or the large O, onch, onch. The first one is shy. Shy is going to be an SH sound, like an English shape, and Coptic word for that is ish sheen, which means tree, and you can see in Coptic it was also drawn as 3 trees on the ground, and then it became the 3 lines that you see. The second one is phi, which is going to be an F sound compared to the phi we had, which was just an PH sound. So phi, a word for that is fent, which means worm, and you can see again it was drawn like a worm, and just in Coptic it looks like it's also attached to a stick. Now we have the letter chai, which is like an Arabic kha. We have hori, which is like an English H. In the Saitic dialect you might find it with a h sound, but most of the Baharic dialects it's only an H sound, just like in English in the word house. The word for that in Coptic would be ehu'u, which means day. The 5th letter we have is ganga, or janja. There are 2 pronunciations for that letter. The first one is a g sound, like an English word go, but if there is an e or a iota after it, it'll be pronounced with a g sound. In Coptic, you would pronounce this word as saji because it has a iota after it, and this one would be ugai, which means by, because it has an alpha after it. And as you can see, the letter is also written in two different ways based on either Baharic or Saidic. Since the Saidic one has an e after it, it's going to be pronounced with a j sound, and the Baharic has an alpha, so it's going to be pronounced with a g sound. We have the second to last letter, which is chima, and this basically is a tav plus a shai. So like in the English word child, we have the ch sound. Coptic word for that is chug, which means sparrow. Now we have the last letter, which is t, and now this letter is going to be like in the English words t, because it's basically formed by having the tav and the iota, join them together to get the ti sound, like in the Coptic word Timi, which means village. Timi. Okay, now we have all of the Coptic alphabet. Alpha, Vita, Gamma, Delta, A, Su'u, Zeta, Eta, Theta, Iota, Kappa, Lavla, Mei, Nei, Ixi, O, Puji, Pi, Rho, Sigma, Tav, Epsilon, Phi, K, Epsi, O, Nishti, Shai, Phi, Chi, Hori, Ganga, Shima, T. That is it for today. If you guys enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. Thank you, and I'll see you next time. Tisha Pehmot, Ogai.